And welcome back to WNY News Now. Joining us live is Jamestown Mayor Eddie Sundquist with more on how the city is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mayor, we thank you so much for being here today. We know you're busy and we appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate being here. Thanks so much for having me today.
Well, a lot has changed over the last week here locally. First off, I want to ask you, what has been your role in the area's response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, as mayor of the city of Jamestown, my number one concern is all of our residents and businesses here in the city of Jamestown. So to make sure that we don't have panic, to make sure that we are over-prepared to deal with anything that may come our way in the city has been my motto and the thing that I've tried to do since day one. So my role has been coordinating our teams, coordinating our departments, and ensuring that our residents know exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it.
So again, can you remind us what are those tips that we should be looking out for as we try to live this modified life that has unfolded here?
Well, the number one thing is to stop the spread of this virus. So we're asking people to the extent that they can, stay home. If you need to, if you need essential things like going to the grocery store, maintain distance between people. We are encouraging people to, if they're able to, go out, walk around, maintain your distance, use our parks. There's a lot of space. The city of Jamestown has an incredible amount of over 500 acres of parkland. But more importantly, we want people just to make sure they maintain their distance, make sure they're washing their hands, and they're staying healthy.
Now, it seems like communication is key. Have you gotten a lot of feedback from community members amid this outbreak and these new lifestyle changes and business changes that have come from Albany?
Absolutely. My staff and I field phone calls, social media messages, email messages pretty much every day. And we're really working with our residents and with our businesses to comply with the changes from the governor's office and from the county. I would say once the governor reduced the workforce, we maybe had about 200 phone calls, emails, messages on social media that we responded to each and every one to make sure our residents and our businesses know what's going on.
Now, for those businesses, it seems like there's a lot of companies out there who have worked to adapt to these new regulations. Restaurants specifically, I know, are trying things like curbside pickup. Is there anything that we can do to continue to help these businesses stay open?
One of the biggest things is to support those businesses during this time of need. They're just trying to survive like the rest of us. And, for those that are working from home and still have income, we want to encourage you to use the curbside service, to use the takeout services. A lot of those restaurants have been there for us throughout the community. They've supported our different games and activities and causes. Now's the time for us to step up and continue to help them during this time.
Now, this week, your office urged area manufacturers to try to work together to fill what will eventually be a local shortage of personal protective equipment and other related supplies. Have you received any feedback from those manufacturers?
We've received a good number of phone calls and messages from manufacturers, all creating different components or willing to retool their operations. The city is working hand in hand with the chamber and with the Chautauqua County IDA in order to field those calls to make sure that we connect businesses and, more importantly, get those businesses in front of the governor's office if indeed there's an opportunity to retool and really answer the call to help the rest of the state.
And I imagine as the weather starts to get nicer, and I know we touched on it a minute ago here, a lot of people will probably want to get outside and enjoy some of the city's beautiful parks. So I ask you, is that still encouraged and okay to do?
We absolutely do encourage and allow our residents to use those parks, but the one thing we want to encourage everyone is to maintain your distance. Definitely be careful what you're touching and where you're going. More importantly, it's better for you to use the parks to go for a walk or to walk the dog or just to enjoy each other. But maintain your distance, and that's the key here.
Now, in regard to the parks and city workers, how have officials adapted to try to stay safe during this time?
Well, we've reduced our non-essential workforce by 100% here in the city of Jamestown. We wanted to make sure that we led by example. A lot of our employees are either working from home or are staying home, like we've asked them to do to help prevent any further spread. It's definitely an issue here in the city as we are public servants. Our main goal is to serve the public and to be out there working on the streets and to help people. It's really hard for us to do, and it's hard for our employees not to do when that's all they really know, which is helping our residents.
So speaking of street crews and DPW, will we still see road work during this time, or for right now, is that kind of suspended?
We've received word from the governor's office that public works crews are considered essential. You will still see road work happening on a lot of the state roadways. For the local and the county roadways, and working with the county executive, we've made the decision here in the city, and the county has also made the decision to keep our crews currently off of road sites in order to help prevent the spread. That may change in the next few weeks as we evaluate what's going on. But right now, our major concern is stopping the spread as quickly as possible.
Now, unfortunately, during this time, it seems like there is a lot of misinformation out there, especially on Facebook. What's the best way for residents to stay in the know about Jamestown's response to the outbreak?
Well, if you're on social media, we always recommend that you follow our Facebook or Twitter pages. We also communicate through many different methods here in the city. We often use the newspaper, we often use the radio stations, and then you can always call the mayor's office if you have any additional questions. I'll tell you, I get a lot of messages on social media, and we try to respond to each and every one to make sure people understand what's happening here in the city.
And certainly, you guys, I think officials across the board, for me, I would have to say, are doing a very good job of trying to keep everybody calm and keep things as normal as we possibly can, because these changes that we've had in our life, I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to school-aged kids now, it was such a disruption, especially last week when it's like, okay, now everybody has to stay home if you're considered to be non-essential business. So it certainly was a big change, it seemed like.
It absolutely was a big change, but the one thing I can say is I have a fantastic team behind me that is over-prepared for the things that come our way. We've been ready for this. We've been working on this, and it's been great to work in conjunction, even with the school district, to help make that call to close the schools, but also ensure that our students have meals, that they have education, and that we have daycare for our residents here in the city. We have gone into this saying we need to partner, we need to make sure we're ready, and I am entirely confident that the city of Jamestown is really ready for any crisis that may come, even after this virus.
Yeah, certainly. And a programming note for our viewers, the superintendent of Jamestown Public Schools, Dr. Brett Athorpe, will be here tomorrow on the broadcast talking a little bit more about how they're continuing to work through this, keeping students educated and making sure that good resources are available for them there as well. Jamestown Mayor Eddie Sundquist joining us today. Sir, thank you so much. It's really important to keep people informed, and we appreciate your time.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.